So as we've been telling you this hour, grand jury getting set to consider evidence in the shooting death of Michael Brown in Missouri. As the nation's top cop arrives to oversee the investigation, the grand jury will ultimately decide whether or not the police officer involved will face criminal charges. So, how does that process work? Eric Guster is a trial lawyer and a social commentator. Jana Spilbor is a former prosecutor and defense attorney. Welcome, attorneys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so how does this process work? Jana, start it off.
All right, so good news is this is a perfectly normal process. We're not changing any rules in this game for Michael Brown or for Darren Wilson. This is what happens. A grand jury is impaneled to investigate a criminal case to decide whether or not there is enough evidence or probable cause to move forward. That is it. It is a very one-sided process. In other words, the prosecution really gets to present its evidence. The defense doesn't get to do a whole lot. The defendant is invited to attend and to testify if the defendant wants to, doesn't have to. But the weird part for the people out there is that we, as defense attorneys, we don't get to cross-examine anybody. We don't get to ask any questions.
You get to be there.
You get to be a warm body.
Okay.
Right.
So if you were the lawyer for the police officer in this case, Eric, would you want the police officer to testify?
It depends on what he has to say, because in a case like this police officer would testify and I could not object. The defense lawyer can't object to questions. The defense lawyer can't say, don't answer that, or invoke your Fifth Amendment rights. He can't say anything to stop the process. So if he's being asked questions under oath, he must answer truthfully, and the lawyer cannot stop it. So probably not.
Why was it impaneled so quickly? I mean, is there any sort of rhyme or reason as to when a grand jury can be impaneled?
Yes, no. Grand juries are impaneled all the time. Typically, each state, like in New York, for example, if you're going to charge somebody with a felony, you've got a short period of time, 6 months, in order to indict them from the time that you formally charge or arrest. So this officer hasn't been arrested yet. They want to get the grand jury impaneled to get the evidence heard because, A, you see what's going on in Ferguson, right? We don't want to waste a whole lot of time, although there really isn't a whole lot of time that you're allowed to waste procedurally anyway.
All right. So, Eric, who is on the grand jury?
Well, they're citizens. It's just like a jury trial as far as picking the jurors. But it's the citizens of the county and that jurisdiction who are picked. And keep in mind, there's no judge in the room. It's only the prosecutor and these people. So it's the prosecutor's case to present to these people. And it really depends on how he or she presents the case, whether it gets indicted or not.
Okay. We're hearing more evidence today, Jana, that the police officer involved suffered a more major injury to the eye socket than had been previously reported. There are a lot of other rumors going around out there. So is this the type of stuff that the grand jury is hearing?
This is an excellent point, because I think another thing that people don't realize is you, as a defendant or a defense attorney, and the public are not entitled to know anything about an investigation until a grand jury has indicted. In other words, even if you were arrested for a felony and I'm representing you, Gretchen, I am not allowed to obtain the, quote, discovery, the police reports, the autopsy reports, the questioning, anything, until a grand jury has heard that evidence. That's why what we're getting in fits and starts from leaks, supposedly. We're not getting the whole case yet. The public's not allowed. The defendant isn't allowed to it. So that's why it's going the way it is.
So is it fair to say that in many circles there's been a rush to judgment then, Eric? Because we don't know?
Not necessarily a rush to judgment. However, with this process, it takes a long time, especially with the murder trial. There are so many witnesses. Eric Holder sent over 40 agents to interview different witnesses, and we don't know what those witnesses have to say. And with murder cases, it takes a long time. And I know that people are upset, and everyone should be entitled to be upset because an 18-year-old is dead. However, we don't know what other witnesses may have, and it's a very long process.
All right, Jana and Eric, great to have your expertise today. Thank you so much for the explanation.
Thank you.